Now let us talk about another one, which is very well known, linear discriminant model. Linear discriminant model. So in that case, normally the debtors, that means the financing clients, are divided into high or low default class based on their observed characteristics. So this linear discriminant model actually only divide the customers into high default class, either in high default class or low default class. And you know, sometimes we also have some kind of gray area, that means undetermined. We do not know whether this client will be in a lower default class or higher default class. A very well known example is the Z-score model provided by Altman. Okay, Altman Z-score model. This is an example of linear discriminant model. So this model is already provided. Sometimes it could also be modified for a particular type of customers based on the experience, but it is very famous model, Altman Z-score model, and it has been used for the publicly traded manufacturing firms in United States. And the default indicator actually provides some kind of classification. If the value of Z-score is above this, then you can call the customers in you can put the customers in this class, and if the value is below that, then you can put the customers in that class. But it does not provide you direct probability of default like what we can get from the linear probability model and logit model. Okay, so Altman Z-score model is like this. Z is equals to 1.2x1 plus 1.4x2 plus 3.3x3 plus 0.6x4 plus 1.0x5, where x1 is equals to working capital over total asset ratio. X2 is equals to retained earnings over total asset ratio. X3 is equals to earnings before interest and taxes over total asset ratio. X4 is equals to market value of equity over book value of total liabilities. And X5 is equals to sales over total asset ratio. And if the Z-score is less than 1.81, then the firm will be treated as a high default risk firm. That means the client will be treated as high default risk client. And if it is above 2.99, then we can treat the financing customer as a low default risk firm. But if it is in between, that means between 1.81 and 2.99, then we cannot decide about the firm. We can call that we cannot decide based on this model. So this is very easy. If you know the values of x1, x2, x3, x4, and x5, then you can easily just key in these values and get the result. Okay, this is how you can find the Z-score, and then just if it is less than 1.181, then you reject the customer. It's quite straightforward. But remember that sometimes depending on the context, depending on the country, depending on the type of customer or the industry of the customer, Altman Z-score might need some kind of adjustment in these coefficients, whether it should be 1.2 or 2.2, whether x3 will be there or not, whether we need another x6 or not, that will depend on the context. Not necessarily you always have to use the same model. Definitely we may need to modify it depending on the industry. So let us look at an example of Altman Z-score model, application of Altman Z-score model. You can see that we have got a balance sheet of a financing customer. Total asset is 700, total liabilities and equity is 700. Also, it should be in the balance sheet. And you can see the composition of the assets. It has $20 of cash, $90 accounts receivable, inventory is 90, and fixed asset, that means plant and equipment, is 500. And on the other hand, it has accounts payable 30, notes payable 40, accruals 30, long-term debt 150, and retained earnings 450. And out of the 450, 300 is retained earnings. And we can, because if you look at the Altman Z-score model, you will find that we need several information from the income statement, like earning before interest and tax, EBIT, like the sales. Okay, we need the information from the income statement. Not only that, we need one information from the capital market, the market value of equity. That is not always provided. Excuse me for a second. Well, so we may need information from the capital market as well as from the income statement and also from the balance sheet. So in this example, you can see that we only have the balance sheet here, but the other information is already given separately. So the sales revenue of the company is $500,000. Cost of goods sold is $360,000, and the market value of equity is equal to the book value. Okay, so that is good. We don't have to collect the information. And another thing, remember, actually all these amounts are in thousands. The amounts in the balance sheet are in thousands. So if you want to calculate the Altman Z-score, it is not very difficult. You can just collect the values and calculate the ratio